Welcome to the G.N.A podcast, Games, Nerds, and Alcohol, where, still covered in poison oak, but I'm here. And I've been playing over and over in my head, it's because of my wife, too, the Itchy and Scratchy theme song. Yeah, because she actually, so, fun fact, she has always been immune and had no allergic reaction to poison oak, ivy, or any of that crap. Well, this time around, she got slapped right in the cojones.
And I was the one playing with it, and I still came down with it 4 days after you.
Yep. So she got slapped with it pretty damn hard this time around. And I don't know if you just heard her, but she just said that she was the actual one who was playing with it originally out there, pulling it all by herself. And she came down with it 4 days after I did. So that tells you, just tells you something. Tells you how often she showers.
So what she's saying is that she played in it,
and
then
I suffered
fucked with you, and gave it to you.
And I suffered, yeah.
And then Karma finally said, hold up, somebody is overdue.
Yeah, it's one of those things of sharing is caring, but, she does have a shirt that says, Karma, I think you forgot some people. And I think in this case, Karma didn't forget her.
Just a little behind schedule.
Yeah, just a little slow on the uptake, a little timing there. But so it's been, oh man, dude, it's been a hell of a week, and there would be nothing better than how I'd like to do than to sit down and drink a cold one, but I can't because my reaction was so bad. I literally had to go to the hospital. Like I muscled through it. Like if you listen to the last episode, you'll actually hear me on there. I was covered with it then, and I still muscled through that episode, and it got progressively worse after that, to the point of like literally my entire body was covered in it. And I don't call into work. I never call into work. I will literally show up to work with a bullet wound. But I actually called into work, and I'm like, it was 2:00 in the morning. I literally hadn't actually slept since Friday, since like the end of that episode.
But for reference, you did show up to gym class when we were kids with a broken fucking arm.
I did. As I said,
you're literally just tangling there.
Yep. I showed up with a broken arm. I taped it up. I used some electrical tape, and I had some wet paper towels in there. But I showed up to gym class with a broken arm. Yeah, that's me. That tells you how much I like docs.
On camera, I mean, your face is looking pretty decent, man. And before you show me the pic, and no offense, but you look like shit in the pic. Oh, so you're looking a lot better.
Oh man, I am feeling a lot better. I still itch all over because my body is literally rejecting my epidermis. But I'm much better. But yeah, so like I literally, dude, as I said, I never call into anything. I called into work. It was 2:00 in the morning, and I'm literally sitting in the bathroom, dumping cold water all over my body just to try to like get the reaction down so I could stop itching. And I figured
out what you are.
Okay.
You're super fucking tall. You're a fucking giant, and you're losing your skin. Like you're basically going skinless here. You're a fucking Titan from Attack on Titan.
Yeah, dude.
You're going to try to eat me, aren't you?
Dude, I don't know if you can see my arm right here, but it literally looks like muscle striation. Like that's all I see right there.
It looks like a fucking Attack on Titan. You sit there like, let's do the podcast. Then I might eat you.
Yeah. Or I might just...
For reference, that little funny little meme video going around with the most retarded, Titan. You see, an Attack on Titan, a lot of people are like, man, I'd be like, email or this one or that one. It doesn't matter if I got the God Titan, the supercalifragilistic, Super Saiyan Titan. It doesn't matter what Titan I would get to, like, say, inherit. I'd end up as that retarded Titan, no matter what. That'd be me. Be like,
I could see it.
Kind of retarded.
Oh, yeah, but dude, like, serious, like, you're immune to this stuff, and I envy you. And I used to envy my wife until I looked what happened to her, and now I don't envy her at all. But holy shit, dude! Like if you can hear my voice, if you're one of the 2 people that listen to this podcast, and you're like, maybe I'm going to learn from old man Cecil tonight, dude. If you see anything that's poison ivy, poison oak, just Google what the hell they look like and stay as far away from it as you can.
I mean, for reference, he looked at me and envied me. Fuck.
Yeah, dude. It's like it. dude, 2:00 in the morning when I'm sitting there in the shower, I finally broke down and I emailed my boss. I'm like, I am not coming in. And I saw my kid off to her first day of school. And then I drove directly to patient first, and they didn't open for another 45 minutes. I was just showing up to make sure that I was there. It was, it has been a horrendous ride, and I'll be extremely happy when I'm done and through and just molting like a normal human being. But that's why I can't drink, because I'm on drugs that if you drink, it kills you. So I'm desperately hoping that you are going to save this podcast about games, nerds, and alcohol. And please tell me you're drinking something, Dee.
I'm actually tasting a bit of a new beer.
Oh, tell me about it, man. Tell me everything. I want to know everything.
So, of course, longtime, fans of the show know, like, my preferred beer, since going to Germany has always been Hefeweizen or Crystal Weiss and, this. And I was never a big fan of Pils, because a lot of them are like, the Pilsners are more like the almost American style beer in Germany. It's closer to like the Buds and everything else. But, getting used to that, I was always like, yeah, no, not the Pilsner. It's all right. I mean, I'll drink it at the fests, right? But I've expanded my palate more, and I used to not like as much like the sour or the bitter beers like the IPAs, but they've really grown on me since, of course, hanging out with Cecil, So I decided, you know what? Let me go back and taste test another Pilsner, right? But from Spencer, Mass, the Trappist monks, they make their own alcohol or their own beers. So the monks, I taste tested some of the Trappist ales and everything else on the show already. They make a Pilsner. And let me tell you, it's pretty refreshing and crisp, like you shoot like a Pilsner, but you almost get a little bit of that bitter sour of an IPA. It's about
really
since it's kind of a range. They have it. It says 4 to 7% of alcohol by volume, so it can vary.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lighter beer, so it's a lighter color. So you get like that on the attack. You get kind of like that fresh, that kind of like almost obviously better than Budweiser, but a lighter ale flavor up front. And then towards the back, you taste a little bit of that bitterness of like an IPA. But slight. It's not as much of it as an IPA. It's very refreshing. And
Is
I was
it
actually
sweet?
surprised because it's not sweet. No, it's a Pilsner, so it's not really sweet. But it's almost like it could almost go partway there, but it's not quite sweet.
Well, the reason I ask is because oftentimes when the beer has a range of ABV like that means that they have a lot more, not canning sugar, but a lot more sugar or sweetener, whatever they use for the yeast to grow off of, in the system. So it brews more in the bottle.
Yeah, but it's not sweet because it's got that, the bitter in the back, but it's like, it's on the cusp of becoming sweet. You know what I mean? Like it's almost there.
Yeah. No, that sounds incredible. Who makes it?
It's the name of the company? Made by the Trappist monks, right here in Spencer, Massachusetts. Not too far from me.
Man, save me one of those, because I don't know when the next time I'm gonna be up, but save me one of those, because I would definitely like to try that. It sounds really good.
It is very tasty. In fact, I've never been much of a Pilsner guy, but I could sit and kick back and drink this pretty much all day. Yeah,
that actually sounds pretty refreshing. So, like, I don't mind. It all depends on the mood I'm in. I actually don't mind American lagers. I don't mind. I mean, I've come to like find what I like in IPAs, but I think I found what I like in IPAs because IPAs tend to be a bit more of a stronger beer, and I like kind of like a hard hit. When I'm drinking something, I don't want to sit there and have to drink 15 of them to finally, catch a little bit of a good feeling. I like to have one or two and be like, yeah, all right, I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling good. That's why I like a lot more hard alcohols like rums and stuff like that, because I can sit down, I can have 2 knuckles in a glass. And by the time I'm done with 2 knuckles in a glass, it's like, oh, I'm feeling warm. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling relaxed.
Exactly. Relaxed and warm. Yeah.
That's the whole, for me, that's the whole point of drinking, is to just help me relax, just help me to chill out.
Taste, relax, and good feelings. Yeah, you don't need to get blitzed or anything else, and you definitely want to be more of a cheap date because, frankly, it gets a little pricey to have a high tolerance.
Oh God, yeah, it does. But I mean, I'll drink. I think that everybody should get good and schnookered at least once a year. There's been a couple of years going back that I think I got schnookered way more times than once a year, and I'm going to blame this show for a bunch of them. But on that,
I definitely have a nice block of time that I was pretty for schnookered most of the time. And I'm going to blame that on the Army. But a whole lot of us were pretty for schnookered the entire time.
And I don't blame you at all. But
I think the worst was, and I'm surprised nobody died, is just a few of us, just like maybe 4 or 5 of us came back, after deployment. We polished off $1,500 worth of liquor in a night.
Jesus.
I was sick for about a week, but I lived. But I mean, it was like we all were just so blasted. At least I think it wasn't a night. It might have bled over a little bit. But we were on
Yeah.
leave, and we just all just sat down. My buddy had his own like little bar, so he had a whole bar set up. He spent some money on it, and we just all polished off. In the morning, he's like, "The fuck did we do? How did we do this?"
Yeah, I remember those nights. I remember those nights of just pulling out. God, I remember that one night. God, I think it was when Rick came back. Like he came back from leave or something, and I threw a party. And we all I had so much booze there. And the next day I had so many empty bottles. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how did we do that? It was the same night that Sarah came down with the nitroglycerin in the bottle. Oh my God.
Yeah, that we almost died.
Yeah. I've never seen a fat man move that fast, but man, there were some very fat men moving very fast that night.
That was a fun night because, even I was back on leave.
Were you there?
Yeah, when Sarah came down and said, "Cecil, is this it?" Waving the bottle, and we all dived out of every fucking window and door.
Yeah, and Zyber sitting there pointing, going, and there was Gurr like pointing with him, going, and I'm like, guys, are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you? And they're like, turn around. And I turn around, and it's like everybody in the whole building like was just, there was so much noise going on. I turn around, I see Sarah with that bottle, and I just yelled, "Don't move!" That place went so silent, you could have heard a pin drop. And then people scattered. Yeah, that was a wild
I
night.
booked out of there like, all you heard was, "Bye, Cecil." Poof.
Yeah, that was a wild night. I'll tell you that much. It was a good night. Next morning was funny.
I may have broken the sound barrier escaping that.
Oh, dude, as I said, there were so many people who moved so friggin' fast. I was astonished. Well, let's go on to the next segment. State of Games. State of Games is where we talk about what we've been playing for the past week, or we just pontificate on how we feel gaming is in general today. And yeah, so what's your State of Games there, Guy?
A little bit all over the place. I mean, I've been spending some time. You can start to see some of it. I actually got some new furniture, and I've started rearranging the entire game room. I'm actually going to be throwing out this couch. I'm getting a new couch coming in next week too. Yeah,
man. From what I can see, it looks good.
Wife was like, "Yeah, you can get you can take this chunk of cash and just redo the room." So that's what we're doing. Got a new
awesome,
TV
man.
too up there. So it's like, I've been getting all kind of squared away. It's still a little bit of a mess, but it's coming along.
Yeah, got a nice little man cave.
But as far as playing games, been playing, of course, the normal with the kids. We've been playing some Stardew Valley with the kids. We do that almost every night. Play some Terraria with the kids. I'm still playing kind of like the pixel remasters of the Final Fantasies on the PC.
How are they?
It's pretty good. They almost preserve somewhat of the graphics and the feel of the old, but has that background of nice updated pixel graphics that make it very pleasant. Yeah, controls are still there. Everything's. It's pretty much still the same game. There's only one thing that I've noticed they've removed from the first Final Fantasy that I've seen that got removed since like the original NES one, and I don't see this in any of the remakes at all. And I noticed it and it bugs me. But
what is it?
I know. I was just going to build in suspense.
I know. You got me nodded a bit.
So remember in the very first one, right? You just finally get your ship, right? And you cruise on down to see the Elven City, right? Elf's asleep. So, and of course you want to get some new gear, right? Go down to the weapon shop. You get your normal weapons like you have in all the other games too, the remakes of them all, right? There's one weapon missing from everything since the original. Kind of for that time and period of the game, there's kind of a little bit of an overpowered silver sword for 4,000 GP. It's like obscenely more expensive than anything else. And I pick up on it because I play the original here and there, and the first thing I always do is like, I'm going to level grind till I get enough money to buy that fucking sword. I do it every time. And every remake, it's like, there's no silver sword. It's missing. It's been missing since. You can go back and you can prove me right. You can go back, start playing the very original in the NES, or I can stream it. See me go there. There's the silver sword, $4,000. Open up any one of these other remakes, whether it be the PlayStation, the one on the PC, no silver sword.
I wonder why it's not there.
I don't know.
Is it just obscenely overpowered?
It's not too obscenely overpowered, but it's pretty powerful for that time period of the game. So it helps if you save up and get it. One, you're already level grinded a bit to get it. Everything else is like 400 or 500, and it's like 4,000. But it is it is strong, and it carries you through for a while before you need to upgrade to another more powerful weapon. So it does give you a little bit more of an edge, but it's not like so obscenely. It's not game breakingly powerful. But you also got to level grind. You got to work for it too. I mean, it's when everything else is costing you 400 or 500 at the most powerful weapons and armor, and this is $4,000. It takes you a while. But it's just one of those things I noticed is like, why did they take that out? I like trying to get that. And it's just one of my weird little quirks when I play the game.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe they're just trying, maybe they recognize it as a bad balance in the early game or something, and they just said, oh, let's just nuke it out in any remakes.
Could be. I mean, because then it's like there's a couple decent weapons you get later on, but then it's still a little bit more powerful, so you don't. And then eventually you just get a bunch of more stuff, and it's like it becomes obsolete. You know, it just I think even some of the more stronger weapons later in the game aren't quite that expensive, but I might have just been kind of a bad call. But I like doing it, so I picked that up. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There's been other. I think Dragon Warrior or maybe Dragon Warrior 2 had one of those where it was just like, oh, I got to grind for that. I just got to save up and grind for that. And I don't know. I think it could have value to a game because if you want the person to have fun, you're kind of giving them a goal to set for. You know, if you grind enough to buy this weapon, then you're good for the next segment of the game, type of thing.
Well, that's what I kind of do, like in the Final Fantasy or the Dragon Warriors. It's like before I hit the next section of the game or go for the next boss fight, I like to grind until I can get all the weapons upgraded and all the magic and everything else, and I'm like set. You know, and of course some items like, you know, your potions and stuff like that to kind of carry along. I like to get to that point, and then it's like, now I'm ready to progress. And I do that religiously. That's just a quirk of mine. I just do it like, you know, like OCD, you know?
Yeah, that's the same way I've been forever. I actually been, one of the games I've been playing on my phone is Dragon's Warrior 2. Warrior 2. Because I bought Dragon Warrior 1, then Dragon Warrior 2 is there. So I'm like, oh, Dragon Warrior 2, let me do this. And I love those old games. They're good. It's got upgraded. It's got like the upgraded pixel graphics, so it's not the old NES graphics.
True original,
so yeah, it's more palatable to the eye, and it's good. It's pretty true to the original. I've enjoyed it. I've also been playing a bit of Aliens Firestorm Elite or Fireteam Elite and Destiny 2.
What's funny is you know that actually Dragon Warrior, aka was supposed to be Dragon Quest, but a copyright infringement. Infringement was what basically prevented them from porting the name over here, hence Dragon Warrior. You know, that actually was like the first JRPG to reach over here, and that actually came out before Final Fantasy.
I did know that. Actually, it was ironically one of the first RPGs I ever played. And I can tell you, I played it over at Jason Crash's house. I'm pretty sure it was there.
Yeah, I do. Like, I actually have the first 4 on NES here, too.
I think I have the first one on NES. I don't think I have anything past that, though. They're good. They're fun games. They're compared to nowadays where everything is open world and everything is non-linear and all this other shit. They're very on rails. They're very, you got to go to point A to point B to get point C and yada, yada, yada and get all this done. And it's nice because it's the exact same reason why I always liked the Final Fantasy games. They were less of a video game and more like a book.
Yeah, they're a fantasy story. It's great. They always had good storyline. But what was cool is like I liked it because it was kind of open world because you can explore anything, but at the same time kind of linear, kept you on track because you had to, there's always clues, but you had to figure out, you had to get certain things before you can progress.
Yeah.
And especially with the Dragon Warriors, it's like, I can explore all this area, but if you go too far, you will die.
Yeah,
like,
you'll find some.
You take that one step too far, and all of a sudden, hey, it's a battle. Is it another one of these Wyvern guy? What the fuck? Oh my god, my guy's dead in one hit. What the hell?
Yeah, what is this, and why is it orange? Wait a minute, it attacks first, but I've been attacking first this whole time. What the F is going on?
I've been one-hit killing every enemy. I took one step too far, and I'm dead. Yeah,
it's one of the big reasons why, look, don't get me wrong. I love Bethesda games. They're buggy messes, and they're fun as hell. But there's just like trying to keep track of a cohesive storyline in it is tough because there's so much to do. And it's so like there's a linear storyline, but the way they designed the game, it's so non-linear that it's tough to really narrow down exactly what's going on unless you just focus and say, okay, I'm only going to do the main quest so I can figure out what the hell story they're trying to tell me.
That's one of the balances I really like what they did with the Zelda Breath of the Wild. On the Switch, is it's open world. You can go anywhere the hell you please. I mean, it is open world, but there's also enough clues. There's enough of a beaten path where you can pretty much linear just shot through, knock out what you need to do and beat the game and everything else, get the storyline. So it's that good. You can do either or, and it's pretty much seamless. Like you don't get so trapped up in one or the other. You can really choose how you play. And I think they had a nice balance of it.
Yeah. And that's what I think you really need. You really need some sort of balance. And for me, I'm not saying for every gamer, because I'm judging by how well all of these games are selling, it's obvious that I'm in the minority of the thinking here. But just like looking at games like The Witcher 3, even Final Fantasy 15, I mean, even taking a look at like GTA and stuff like that. The new incarnation of GTA 5 and GTA 4. Like looking at all those, it's just there's so much to do. It's just, I don't know, it's staggering. Like but Fireteam Elite, I actually really enjoy that because it's incredibly linear, but the mechanics of the game are fun. Shoot xenomorphs in the face, make them explode.
Yeah, because it's good to have a lot to do in a game because you really get your money's worth, but it's sometimes also like that simplicity of really good gameplay. Sometimes you don't need all the extra stuff. Like one of the really cool just game mechanics, like really good simplicity of plays is, and it's more of a geometric, it's not superb like graphics, but it was a geometric shooter. It was actually called Child of Eden on the Xbox 360. If you use the Kinect, you could sit there and actually like steer and shoot and everything else, use your body. But the game mechanics were a lot of fun. It was very simple, but it really worked. I really enjoyed playing that game over and over again.
Yeah, like that's one of the things that I've come to grow and figure out for myself about myself. And this isn't like, hey, this is some wisdom that everybody should know. I'm not saying this is my opinion. So if you're thinking I'm talking like that, get your head out of your ass. No, I'm not doing that. But what I've just come to figure out over just over the years is, like, there are certain parts of a game that I will jump into. Like when it comes to RPGs and stuff like that, I really enjoy when there's a story to be told and they can portray that story to you in a very not easy, but in a very fun fashion where, you know that you're going to have the grind, but the whole game isn't about the grind. The whole game is about the story. The grind is just how you get to the story. But I've also learned that there's, other games if it has good gameplay, if the mechanics of the game are fun, and I'll cite two that I've cited, I think, more times than I need to, but Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves, the mechanics of the game are just fun. They're just downright entertaining. Especially if you get your buddies all together in the same game. Yeah, you start drinking some rum, you start shooting each other out of cannons, you start taking on pirate ships. It's genuinely a fun experience. And even when you got those dickhead players out there griefing you, just chasing everybody around and just sinking their ships, stealing their treasure. I mean, it's a pirate game. It's kind of expected. So it's kind
fun. Of ironic. Why are there griefers in a pirate game?
Yeah, I mean, like that's literally what pirates were. And No Man's Sky. Like No Man's Sky, even when it first came out, the mechanics of the game, the basic game plan mechanics were fun. They were entertaining to me.
The PR and what people thought was promised is what really killed it in the beginning. But you know what? Honestly, the gameplay was still a lot of fun. You advised that I got it, and I got it too. And I saw a lot of the negativity, but I was like, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, so like it in the beginning. So way back when No Man's Sky first came out, there really wasn't anything to do. Like it was go find your ship, repair your ship, and then fly to the center of the galaxy. Like that was the only thing you really had to do. There was almost no storyline. There was no base building, and it was literally just fly around in a ship, collect resources, put stuff on your ship, go to space stations, put more stuff on your ship. And basically it was just a wash, rinse, and repeat. But the mechanics were genuinely entertaining to me. Especially when you jump into a ship and you fly and you break atmosphere and just that whole feeling of getting into space and finding another planet and then search, you get onto a planet, you're like, oh my God, this is a barren wasteland. And then you're like, all right, well, I'll jump to this other planet. I got enough fuel to get there. And then when you get to that planet and you realize, crap, I'm really low on fuel. And you get to that planet, you're like, this is a barren wasteland. And you're going, man, I can get to this last planet that's in this solar system, but crap, if there's nothing on this planet, I'm really screwed. So then you get to that planet and you find it's a barren wasteland, but it just happens that if you spend long enough there and keep searching and digging, you find what you need to fuel your ship. So, I mean, it was, even at the beginning, it was, as I said, there wasn't a lot to do, but the mechanics, the general gameplay was fun.
Or you find what I found, it's like, oh, look at this. There's all kinds of light and it's trying to kill me.
Yeah, there's that too. Where everything did try to kill you.
And now they added like civilizations and colonies and shit.
Man. Dude, Hello Games has, like, what they described they wanted that game to be.
They've worked towards it.
I'm giving them props. They have worked towards it. But there's only, like, keep in mind, Hello Games is only, I think, like 26 employees.
And they've been doing, these aren't paid downloads in DLC. This is update.
Yeah. This is just for, and you know, to what they said, one of the things I can recall them saying is the game they wanted to make was, and they listed all this other crap off, and they've literally put in everything. I think everything. I'm going on memory here.
Bad PR that bit him in the ass because people thought that they meant that they're going to get that game up front.
Yeah,
but it's really like, this is what we want to do with the game. This is what we're going to do. This is what we want to do.
Yeah,
but
and they just didn't stop people from thinking that. That's bad on them. They really should have specified and cleared it all up and been like, hey, look, you know.
They thought the extra PR and everything else was a good thing, but they didn't stop some of the bad, or some of the more demanding and obscene rumors. So they ended up everybody expecting a bigger game.
Yeah.
But in their defense, though, they never stopped working towards that ideal game.
Yeah.
And that's without charging us extra money for DLC. That's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, and they, you know, I give Hello Games a huge, like, attaboy because they said this is the game we wanted to make. And then even after a botched release, like absolutely botched with everything that happened, even after that, even after all the negative PR, after people cursing their name, after literally them making coining a phrase of, oh man, they pulled another No Man's Sky. Even after all of that, after taking so many on the chin, they still kept going and they still kept going through. And that's character to me. You know, that's something I don't think you would ever see in coming from EA or Activision or, you know, any of the big name companies. Especially not making up to a promise without charging extra money. EA is like, yeah, we told you that, but we meant for an extra price. Well, I don't even think that they would do it for an extra price. I honestly think that with that big of a botch,
they would have just thrown it out in the garbage.
They would have just said, you know what, this is a failed experiment. Let's chuck this and try something else.
Yeah.
And I got to give Hello Games a huge props. At the same breath, even though it's a game I love dearly, I got to rag on Gun Media for when the whole lawsuit thing came out with, with Jason Voorhees and all that crap and Friday the 13th, you know, they just cut and run. They just said, you know what? This is going to screw, even though nothing was pointed at them. No litigation was pointed at them whatsoever. Nobody was barking at them legally. They just said, yeah, you know what? This is a bad scene and we're just getting out of it. We're not going to try to make the game that we promised. We're not going to add all this stuff in that we've been talking about. We're actually cutting and running.
But when you start having lawsuits pop up, it can get people pretty kind of skeeved out. Because, I mean, even when you think that you're in the safe zone, look at like how voracious Nintendo goes after anything that even looks like their IP.
Yeah, but the thing is,
like, you make a joystick, they're like, that's our patent. It's like, you didn't patent all of joysticks on the planet. It was arcade. They go a little crazy. So I mean, I can see how somebody can get like, when you start seeing big lawsuits going back and forth and everything, I can see some people getting scared. I'm not justifying it. I just can understand the kind of the fear factor.
Yeah, I can definitely see somebody getting scared. But, you know, when it's literally, it's kind of like the thing of, I don't know, I guess that don't count your chickens before they hatch thing. It's just kind of the reverse of that. You know, don't assume the worst until it happens. You know, they, for everything that they had up until that point, they were still in their legal rights because they had acquired licensing for it from the person who had the license at the time. They had acquired the legal rights to go ahead and do this. And until those legal rights were revoked, I mean, in my opinion, they should have kept going. They should have just been like, hey, look, you know what? We're going to keep going until we're told to stop.
I agree. I mean, I would have liked to have seen that too, because it's like until that, like, say, but if they have the rights of the contract, as long as it doesn't expire, like within that contract, what it says is like technically, I mean, I'm sure there's other like state laws and there's other laws that if a contract or the owning of the IP gets changed hands, I'm sure there's some other legalese, but I don't think there's any way, shape, or form they would have been targeted for a lawsuit unless the terms came where, okay, it transfers hands, now you can't do it without a new agreement, and if they decide to continue to barrel forward. Exactly.
So exactly.
I think it's been fun. I mean, I can see why the fear, but at the same time, it's like, you guys had it locked in the IP, you had the rights, you worked it out on a contract with the person that was the license holder.
Yeah.
You should have kind of chilled.
And when they stopped, the person who had the license holder, they still had the license. You know, it hadn't, the litigation hadn't completed. So they still owned, they still own the IP. So yeah, I mean, Gun Media, if you're listening, you let me down, guys. You let me down. But I gotta say, I'm really happy with, Aliens games. I love the Alien series, like just too much. And Aliens games always get a bad rap. And it's because of Colonial Marines. AVP 2 wasn't exactly that fantastic. AVP, the Rebellion made by, I think it's Red Rebellion or Rebellion Software or whatever. That one was uber fun. Like, I loved that game.
Which one was that got released on like the 360 and came in like a little special edition with a statue but got a bad rap?
That was Colonial Marines. And if you look,
that even likes that one. He's a big fan of it.
Right actually there, you'll see that there's that yellow smudge there. That's actually the statue from it. That's the power loader with an alien on it right there.
Well, it's better than a smudge for my eyes, so.
Oh, good. Also, it looks better then. On mine, it just looks like a yellow blob.
Your camera's coming through pretty clearly for mine, so I can tell.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
That's that right there. But yeah, I mean, they had an AVP that came out on 3DO, I think, and I don't think I ever played it. No, Atari Jaguar, not 3DO.
Atari Jaguar. It was an Aliens versus Predator on Atari Jaguar.
Yeah.
I actually had it for a period of time.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played it. I think I tried to find an emulator and the game just so I could try it and just be like, all right, I'm going to throw on the eye patch and I'm just going to play this game because I never got a chance to, and I can't get my hands on a Jaguar now. And I don't even know how the hell I would get my hands on a Jaguar now, but let me just go and try it. So I don't think I ever played it.
For a while when my collection got really big, I actually had a Jaguar 3DO.
They were
expensive and a pain in the ass to collect for, and there isn't a huge library, so it's kind of like And I mean, the games still had, like, say, even some of the more expensive games to collect for, other than like the AVP on the Jaguar, but a lot of the other games had better ports on other systems anyways in the same game. So it was kind of like, I mean, it was like, on the 3DO you had like Gex and Zoop and all that stuff, but they're on fucking everything. And then you had the Atari Jaguar. It's like nothing really that. The 3DO did have one RPG on it I'd like to get a hold of, but that thing's like even back then it was a obscene amount of money. It's super rare and it's really not worth the fucking price tag that comes along with that game.
Which one?
I'm trying to remember the name right off the top of my head, and I can't. But there's one RPG that came out for it that was like a JRPG, and even if as of a few years ago, it was like going for like $600 fucking bucks a pop.
Jesus,
that's before the retro really shot up, and it's like,
that's just too much.
And the kicker is, before I knew about the 3DO, like right before I first got it, and I was just getting into it. The kicker is like a little old game store that was just in a pile that nobody's buying. I was like, hey. That's pretty now. It looks like what's a 3DO? It looks like there's an RPG right there. A few bucks, and I was like, nah. Wonder if that would be any good. Well. Turns out it was that fucking game.
Oh man,
it was like $3 or $4, and now I see the price tag is $600. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, that's a kick right in the crotch. Well, so funny thing, because I keep talking about Aliens. I actually picked up something that I'm actually excited to read through and then get a game together at some point in time.
Because I know you've been like really cutting down on stuff. Ooh. Alien, the RPG?
Yeah, it's a tabletop RPG. It's officially released. It's endorsed by 20th Century Fox by Free League Publishing. Came out in 2020.
So you're going to include me in that, right, man?
I actually think I'm going to read through this guy and see where it is. So what I read some reviews online about it, and they said it was, a lot of the average tabletop RPG stuff. They said it was designed around more of the fast-paced, like run and gun type of horror elements. So expect a lot of enemies being thrown at you and a lot of I got to stay moving because otherwise I'm going to get nuked. But
which is accurate. It's kind of like the movies. If you stay to one, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, there's 390 pages, it looks like. 380 something pages.
It sounds like it could be fun.
Oh, and they even have space combat, because there's a space combat map. So
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and there's looks like there's a one-off. It looks like there's a one-off.
Like
what's
sample campaign?
Yeah, called Hope's Last Day.
That sounds neat.
Yeah, so it looks like you even get a little scenario to play in here. It's at least
to break you into how to DM and everything. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I got one thing. So I'm a book man. I really am. I spend so much time on computers that I like the feeling of a book in my hand.
Well, you should see my little library going on in the living room. I mean, I have all the Tolkien, the Robert Jordans.
Yeah. I've got Tolkien. I got Poe. I've got God, I've
H.P.
got
Lovecraft for me because I love cosmic horror.
I've got the Grimm's Tales in a nice leather-bound
same here,
book.
man.
Yeah,
Come on, I grew up on Grimm's Tales. European family, they're always like, let me terrorize you. It's like, it's not like, why don't you do this? You could get hurt. It's why don't you do this? Well, let me tell you the terrifying tale of how these kids got eaten by some fucking goblin. It's like,
yeah. Well, so one of the things that I want to point out is that this book is actually a really nice quality book.
It just looks like it feels like the good quality, like say paper and hardcover that you get.
Yeah,
the decent RPG book.
The pages are thick, and they actually have that kind of, that really thick magazine,
like that matte feeling, like the matte finish on them.
Yeah, that really thick matte feeling that you get like in a really good magazine. Like they've got that. Yeah,
like on the higher end magazines versus the older kind of almost newspapery feeling, like yucky ones. Yeah,
the font on it is. It's easy to read. It's really nice. They've got things broken down to like things that you do, like work for hire things. Like they've broken it down so that you can really flesh out and make a world out of it, not just you're jumping in and fighting xenomorphs. Which when I first saw this, my first thought was, oh great, this is going to be a straight running and gunning. Here's how you build a dungeon crawl, and that's it. And I'm pleasantly surprised on what I've thumbed through so far. It looks like it's a well-designed RPG. It's got what you can do on off hours, what you can do, what you can do in town.
So they put a little heart and soul, a little love in this one.
Yeah.
Rather than a quick licensing knockoff, just make some cash on an IP. It looks like this is a little bit more thought going into this one.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, you're going to start off. I mean, if I don't start this way, then I would be amiss. I'm going to be starting with, you all are intergalactic miners stuck on a ship. One of you are going to get infected, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a friggin' xenomorph running around.
And what universe do you start as somebody badass like fucking Ripley, other than the movies?
Exactly. And you know what? Look. I have a really soft spot for alien movies, and I've probably, if I haven't read all of the books, I've read all of the books that were released up until about 2008 that came out for aliens. Seen every movie more times than I could possibly count. In fact, Aliens, the Aliens movie is probably rivaling right next to how many times I've seen Down Periscope. And if anybody knows me, they know that I've seen Down Periscope a lot.
However, I really did like the atmosphere of Alien.
So that's where I like to start. And when I say I want to start there is that's the kind of RPG that I want to run for a first bout in this. I don't want it to be a run and gun dungeon crawl. I want it to be, but and that's the thing is that whoever I get to play, they're going to have to be good actors. Like they are going to have to be 100% jumping into this role because, dude, it's aliens. It's too easy to meta the game. Like it's too easy to meta the whole scenario. It's a xenomorph. That if you stab it, it's going to bleed acid blood and it's going to get all over the place. So to get out of the way. A first round people trying to figure this thing out, they're not going to know that. And I'm going to really have to find a core group of like 3 to 5 people and be like, all right, you got to be able to play an actual character. This isn't going to be intro to D&D night. This is going to be you're playing a role
without the knowledge of watching the movie, without the knowledge, like your in-game character is never going to have the knowledge we have watching the movies, reading the comic books. And you got to play to, your dude's scared. You got a knife. It's like, yeah, it's going to happen.
You have, like, that's the thing, that's one of the disconnects that I always find in role-playing games. And it's something that's always, especially now that just tabletop role-playing games have become so popular, is that people they know so much and they meta the hell out of the game and it makes it less fun.
But it's also difficult not to at the same time. It's like, I don't want to kill my character, but my character wouldn't know this, but I know better. It can be kind of challenging. It's like,
100%. And you know what? You always meta a little bit, no matter what, because it just happens. But a good player, it's called a role-playing game.
For a reason.
Beginning of it called role-playing. You're playing a role. You're not jumping in and being a god. It's just exactly like, okay, so playing a role-playing game, a role-playing video game. Well, when you run around and you start talking to such different people, and you're like, well, wait a second, I know that this is happening, but your character doesn't. So when they go and talk to people, they can't say, hey, what's happening with this war over here? Well, they can't ask that question because he doesn't know about the war going on over there. This character doesn't know anything about it, so they can't start asking questions about it until they figure it out.
They're not flying dragons and killing gods. They're beating up fucking slimes and rats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right? So it's not like they have this all knowledge of everything that's happening in the kingdom, but just because you as the player knows that doesn't mean that your character does.
Exactly.
And that's the type of thing is that when you're playing a tabletop role-playing game, there's that disconnect because everybody already knows it. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Everybody, like, okay, I'll take the Salt Marsh thing. Okay. When we first started playing that, I had several people at the table, and I'm not going to throw out names because I don't want to like throw somebody under the bus and be like, oh, yeah, no, everybody had fun. And that was the important part. I found frustrations because I'm the DM and I found frustrations. But there were some magic traps that when something went off, like when somebody got close to something or tried to fiddle with something, it would make the sound of like, hideous or menacing laughter or a blood-curdling scream in the next room type of thing. Because they were going through a haunted house. Now, anybody who's played Dungeons and Dragons knows what I think it's called a noise trap. Everybody knows what they are. So when they get close to something or they touch something and then all of a sudden, boom, there's this blood-curdling scream. Yeah, look, they put 2 and 2 together and they don't actually react. Well, in the game, I said, okay, well, everybody roll. And there were a couple of people that failed the check. And I said, okay. And I, looked at them. I said, look, that scare, that scream, it tore you down to the soul, man. You're terrified right now. And out of the people that I told that to, a couple of them played into it and they started their character reacting that way. And they had to roll with disadvantage on some things. And then there was one that didn't, that, they knew what it was. They knew that it was a noise trap. They knew that it was magic sitting there. So they continued to play. Like immediately they went, oh, well, I'm going to do this so that I can start searching for this. And I'm like, okay, I knew it right off the bat what they were doing. And I was like, okay. So then I had to play through that. I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to meta, that means that I'm going to hold this, like literally, I'm going to hold this down to the finite measurement. This spell can only see through this much brick, this much wood, this much concrete. Okay. I measured all this shit out and I said, all right, this is exactly what you see. And it's frustrating as a DM because in a situation, if you were in a group and you heard a blood-curdling scream and it terrified you, your first thought would not be, let me continue to look for more.
Especially if you're in a quote-unquote haunted house. Most of us would be like, all right, I'm out. I'm fucking out. Close the door.
Or what would happen is the people who weren't scared would say, hey, look, guys, the person would react of, crap, guys, there's something really wrong here. We got to get out of here. And the people who weren't scared would say, hey, hold on. We're here for a reason. We're supposed to be doing this. Come on, let's keep going. I'm going to be your strength.
Or somebody's in trouble. Let's go fucking help this person.
Yeah. Or, holy crap, did you hear that scream? They may be in trouble. We have to help them and try to turn that fear around. But, it is what it is. And that's one of the things of, as a DM, I just love playing. As a DM or as a player, I just love playing. That's my joy. I find joy in just playing. And even when people throw some really wacky shit out there, and I'm going to throw this at you, Zyber, if you're listening, when you make a dildo bat in a Vampire the Masquerade game when you're not supposed to be letting people know that you're a vampire at all, and you make a dildo bat and start beating people to death with it, even when some zany shit gets thrown out there, I still enjoy it because it's like, you know what? I did not expect somebody to make a dildo bat. I'm going to run with this. Let's see what this turns out to be, But
that would
this
be
game,
just
like,
fucked up to a crazy person too.
Yeah, but
I don't know if that's kind of a stereotype of vampires.
Yeah, but this, and the thing is, his character didn't come from crazy. His character was like a porn star. Now, yeah, he may be a little mentally unstable because he's a porn star, and not to say that all porn stars are mentally unstable, but I don't know. You're a porn star, you get your dick bitten, you get turned into a vampire, and maybe that might mess you up. I don't know. But it's not like he came from a background where he's like a nut job. He came from a background where, look, he made money because he's Mandingo.
He's not a Malkavian, right?
I don't think he was a Malkavian.
No, he wasn't. That's why I'm being funny because. Yeah. But even so, like a lot of people, like think Malkavians are the stark raving madmen running around. No. Insanity takes many forms. Yeah, you aren't necessarily stark raving mad. It might just be something off about them, and they could actually generally be insane. But it's not always blatant. It's sometimes a lot more subtle. They could be sitting there and be perfectly fine, and then one day you just look over and they're like, they eating a cockroach for some reason. You're like, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? Or like triggering somebody that has bipolar disorder or something. They're fine most of the time, and all of a sudden it's like, holy, who the hell is this? Yeah, holy crap, they just turned hardcore. But yeah, so that's why like I really enjoy the aliens, like just the whole everything about it, just the horror about it, the action about it, the different mythos about it, going back to Prometheus and finding out where this shit came from. Just all of that is so fascinating, and I want to absorb more in it. And it's just, I know that this is going to be one game where I'm not going to be able to put on my big boy DM pants, and I'm going to get fucking triggered. So that's why I'm like, whenever I finally do build something out and I get people to play, I know that I'm going to be like, hey, look guys, I'm telling you right now, this is not my normal DM style. I'm going to be like really going balls deep into this. And if you're here just to try to see how badly you can fuck me over, then I'll tell you now, you might as well leave, because I'll probably just kick you out mid-game. I'm actually going to want to play that because I'm, goofiness aside, I'm a big fan of horror. Well, no, you're a decent player. You also jump into a role and try to play as a role. So I don't have a big problem. But I try at least. No, but the thing is, it's not about skill. It's just acting. It's having fun and acting. Yeah. It's turning into somebody else. That's the whole thing. And yeah, so I'm probably going to be super, super picky when I finally do get this thing going. And I'm trying to figure out where I want to start it off. I'm thinking I may want to start it off right after the first Alien movie, but before the Aliens movie, and like start my campaign there and see where I go. That would be pretty cool. Because, it's safe to say that these xenomorphs are on more planets than just, what is it, LV-245? Oh, they're on a lot. Well, in the mythos, of course, they're on a whole bunch, but pretty much at that point in the movies where they're from. That, that one, they know they're in that area, but I mean, in the mythos, they were in a lot of places. But, I'm just trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what the actual planet was, because in Aliens wait a minute. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm brain farting right now. Well, I mean, after watching all the movies, Prometheus, the origins, it's hard to keep track of which one was like not necessarily the original in the storyline, but the original as far as the chronological order of the movies. You know what I mean? No. So in Alien, they went to a planet, and the space jockey was there. In Aliens, were they on the same planet terraforming? Were they on a planet, or was Alien on a ship? I thought it was a ship they got fucked with. I thought they found him on a... Oh my god. I thought it was more I thought it was on a ship. Crap, now I gotta look it up. Emperor Google, because it's been too long since I watched that show. I'm Googling it because I'm friggin' having a bad day. Commercial space tug Nostromo is returning to Earth with 7 members, crew in stasis. Yada, 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 yada. They are from a nearby moon. The ship's computer. Okay, so they're detecting a transmission from a nearby moon. Oh, so they were on a ship, but they went to a moon. Okay, so we're both kind of there. Yeah. Well, they were on a ship, yeah, but they went to investigate, I thought, a planet. It was a moon, obviously it was a moon. And that's where they got infected. So I'm guessing that this moon... And Aliens, what is that? Where does that take place? That's on LV something, something, something. Yeah, that's on a planet, right? That is on a planet, because they're terraforming the planet. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to keep my movie straight in my head now. Let's find out. LV-426. Oh. That sounds appropriate, like something NASA would come up with. Hold on. Early in the director's commentary, Ridley Scott confirms that the planet from Alien... Oh, sorry. The planet from Alien was LV-426.
But in Prometheus, the planet is LV-223. He calls the number romantic. Presumably, this is still in the Omicron system from the first Alien movie. So how did the xenomorphs get on LV-233 and over to LV-426? That's the question. Okay, so LV-426 is the planet from the movie Alien. LV-223 is the planet from the movie Prometheus.
Okay, so they started off on that planet, but they were also on that moon.
Yes, so let's find out, where was Aliens? LV-426. Aliens, eggs in a derelict ship. Hold on. Or skeptical about her claim of aliens. Oh, no, sorry. Skeptical about her claims for LV-246. They find the oh, no, it is. It's it's 426. Yeah, it's the same place. So the same place that the alien. Yeah, I thought so. This is why we check, because we trust but validate. Yeah, so in Alien, they went to a moon, or LV-426, and they got infected with the alien, which destroyed, they ended up destroying the Nostromo. In Aliens, they go back to that planet because when Ripley comes back, the guy tells them that they're terraforming that place. But they lost communication with the colony, so they go out and find the colony deserted. Maybe that's what I'll do tonight. Maybe I'll watch Alien and then Aliens again. I haven't seen them in probably a couple of years.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I would be down. I would be down to do that. But yeah, so anyway, so I'm thinking I'm going to have this start off because assuming, and maybe I'm assuming wrong, maybe I'll have to do a little more research on this, but I'm assuming that the aliens, the xenomorphs, were on more than one planet. And obviously they were. They were on at least two planets, LV-223 and LV-426. So if...
And eventually more in the storyline, eventually even more afterwards or more...
In the storyline, they ended up on Earth too.
Yeah, everywhere.
Like the aliens... So one of the, I don't want to say rejected scripts, but one of the scripts that came out, one of the considered scripts that came out for Alien 3 was going to have Hicks still alive, fighting next to Ripley. And the end of that movie, it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be the end of that movie was supposed to be the aliens making it to Earth. And that was going to be like the lead into the following movie. But instead they went with the prison idea, which, I mean, I'm okay with the prison idea, but they really should have just, they should have left Ripley and everybody else out of that completely and just had an alien on the prison and just said, you know what, Ripley's not going to be involved on this one. Because if they did that, then Alien Resurrection would have never happened, which I enjoyed Alien Resurrection, but I would have been okay if it never happened too.
Speaking of the sci-fi stuff, what do you think about the new Matrix that are going to be coming out?
I'm intrigued. So
I have a theory. In a minute, I want to tell you, I actually have a theory about the whole Matrix thing.
Well, I'm intrigued because I agree with what Damoc was saying in chat, like yesterday or today or wherever. Where
I didn't even get to read it.
Yeah, he was talking about the first Matrix was good and 2 and 3 were crap. And I enjoyed 2 and 3, but I agree that they were pretty crap. I enjoyed the Animatrix more than I enjoyed. I enjoyed the Animatrix probably more than I enjoyed
they
both
weren't as
2 and 3
impressive
combined.
Or it is kind of impactful as the first one by any means. Yeah,
they were setting up, like, in the first one, they set up Neo to be kind of the Jesus character, the savior. And it was like, where do you go with that? You've basically made Superman. So how do you kill Superman? Basically, that's what it just boils down to. How do you kill Superman? I liked the idea that the machines kept Zion going. They basically would destroy it and rebuild it type of thing. And I liked that premise. I just think that they kind of went about it. I don't know. It just never really sat all that well. Like the idea of it was like, okay, but I just felt like the execution was poor.
Yeah. One of the things is like to take into account is that even when they get into the quote unquote real world of the machines and Zion, that's still part of the Matrix. Neo still retained his powers outside of the Matrix, so he's still in the Matrix.
Yeah, but so here's the thing though on that. So he was like, all those characters were like fitted with plugs and different adapters and different ways of communicating that we may not have actually been told about. So him being able to, for instance, like when he was able to take down the Sentinels with just like his mind or whatever, and he passed out. It took all of his energy and he passed out. in my mind, my rationalization for that was that he's fitted with all these different,
wireless device, like a wireless, like universal remote.
Yeah, I mean, you can't imagine, like, okay, hardwire. Yeah, hardwire is probably the best way to get whatever energy you're going to get out of them and all that jazz. But on the flip side, you can't just assume that they turned off all wireless signal for everything. So why wouldn't they use that technology? We had it. So who's to say that technology didn't exist in them, and that him being able to figure out like just some manner of manipulating that, and holy crap, I can do this, and he did it. Him being able to see after he was blinded, again, he's got a whole bunch of plugs and different sensors plugged into him. Who's to say that one of those doesn't attach to the brain and allow him to see what's around him?
I had an interesting take on the Matrix. I mean, I haven't read the books, just watched the movies, but I had an interesting theory on the Matrix. There is no living being in that at all.
They're
not
all
a single
programs?
flesh and blood human being, and not a single machine as far as inside of it. Have you ever heard of a hypothetical like the Boltzmann brain?
Sounds familiar.
It goes hand in hand with simulation theory, right?
Okay.
And the chance of, like, say, a progenitor race, if you created thousands of simulations, say, for instance, and we're thinking like, at first they were thinking like a planet's worth of, like, say, planet-sized computer or planet-sized energy source. No, actually, with quantum computing, which may be pretty shortly, you can simulate the thoughts and feelings at people that think they maybe think they're real, think, have feelings and everything else. Really advanced AI. You can create like millions of those in a quantum computer. Say a nuclear power plant and a really powerful quantum computer. You could hypothetically create an entire, little universe, simulation. People living their lives, dying, civilizations rising and falling. What's called, quote unquote, a Boltzmann brain, right? What if the Matrix is nothing more than a Boltzmann brain, and everybody in it, machine, whatever, they're just doing an experiment on consciousness and seeing people like, what's reality? And how does consciousness develop and evolve? And how do people perceive it? And what if you break open that fourth wall a little bit? How does that affect? They might just be trying to discover more about consciousness itself. And it's just a really big simulation theory layers where you've got the Matrix, the real world, and it's really just nothing but a fucking simulation for scientists.
I can see that.
Yeah, just a big Boltzmann brain.
That's an interesting idea. Well, we're going to see in this next movie because from what it looks like they've abolished the second and third movie out of whatever canon they're doing here, because Neo and Trinity are both alive. Granted, they're both significantly older, but they're both alive.
And you don't see Lawrence Fishburne that we know of.
I didn't see Lawrence Fishburne, which I loved Morpheus.
And he actually commented on it too. Like, he seems kind of jaded too. So the question is, and then but Keanu Reeves was promising something special. So it's like, is he just pretending to be jaded and not included, or is he going to make some sort of really impactful appearance?
See, now I'd be down with that. I'd be down with a little misdirection.
Yep.
To get us there. That would be fun. I would enjoy that. That would be another tabletop RPG that I think I would enjoy playing, would be a Matrix style RPG.
Yeah.
But that would be really like the only thing I'm trying to figure out is how do you make a story in that impactful? Like, other than the very generic, go retrieve this information and get it back to Zion and be the saviors type of people.
Yeah, but that also, like, actually, I was just thinking of something else that I was thinking about that played into my theory of it being a simulation, right? See, except for the ones that are the chosen and they're awakened, if you had them real flesh and blood human beings, obviously trapped in VR, so you have an avatar, so I can see them taking over that. But at the same time, if you have flesh and blood people, right, at the core, and they're walking around, anybody that's not, quote unquote, freed from the Matrix can still be taken over by Mr. Smith or one of the other agents. All of a sudden, it's like they're there, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, what are those agents? A program. If this is a flesh and blood person with a soul, a mind, and everything else, I mean, granted, you could have like their avatar gets taken over, but it is VR. But what happens to their consciousness if they're actually conscious human being when they're taken over? So if these are all millions of flesh and blood people, it's like, where does their soul, where does their mind go when they're taken over? I mean, it's like, if they're not just a program, are they like in a coma, like when you're in when you get surgery and you're in anesthetic, or I mean, is it like, how does a program infect true consciousness? You know what I mean? So it kind of plays more to that. Everything's just a fucking program. It's a one big Boltzmann brain simulation saying, what happens if? How does a consciousness evolve? How do people react if suddenly they realize that nothing's real? It's like, what's going on? It seems like an experiment that they'd pull at one of the quantum physicists might be like, let's see what this does.
I could see that.
Something like that it might do. So I'm just thinking more and more. I'm thinking it almost sounds like nothing's real in that fucking movie.
I could see that. Well, I gotta say, I'm interested to see what this fourth Matrix movie is. If this fourth Matrix movie ends up being like 1.5, or if it just destroys the following two movies after it, or 2 and 3, or if it goes in like an Elseworld span, or maybe this is even like another iteration of the Matrix where, basically it's the same characters, it's just a different
Rebooted
time.
again.
Yeah.
Back to 1990 again, all over again. Why the fuck am I older?
I know.
Well, they said they kind of restarted that simulation with different themes several times before they settled on 99. So, I mean,
yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see it. I definitely am.
But it does kind of bring up as like, what's reality? Because I mean, if you can really plug in and be that much of a like, pretty much in the real world a meat puppet, but actually like, experience a whole world. What's funny is even some sort of top scientists, and we're talking about like say, quantum physicists and other things. It's like one of the ongoing theories is that, our brain creates like the reality, right? It really isn't the objective reality. Like we're creating like, facsimile of everything, almost like icons on a desktop. We recognize everything and pretty much to us, it seems real. But there's one scientist that argues that it's not even evolutionarily advantageous for us to see everything that really is, as it truly is. Like that would take a lot of energy and everything. I mean, it's like, we need to just get by and survive and reproduce. So why would we be able to fully understand the whole and see the whole of objective reality? It wouldn't even be evolutionarily advantageous for us. So I've been reading up some stuff like that. I was just like, wow, what if, Because they're trying to struggle to figure out what is space-time? What is space made of? What is the universe even made out of? Yeah, we could say particles in this, but what is like quantum field theory of the fields? What is the nature of the shit around us, the reality, what we exist in? They can't even fully define gravity. It's like, what is it? And it looks like there's holes even, they're looking more and more like, even Einstein's theory of relativity doesn't quite hold up. I mean, it's like none of the theories are quite holding up. And it's like, we might not quite be right at all.
Well, that's the thing, is that we can only report on what we perceive. I mean, that's the one thing that I think Schrodinger got when he was talking about, the Schrodinger cat experiment. Is the cat alive or dead? He's both. Because nobody's perceived what's happened. Nobody's observed the perception.
Actually, not quite. You're actually off on that.
Really?
Historically. Now, that's how it's taught, right? That Schrodinger is trying to put, you can't quite perceive. And part of it is also that in quantum physics, right? Unlike, the macroscopic now, at the quantum level, reality is a lot fuzzier, right? So shit can exist in two states at once. Up, down, alive, dead. It doesn't, until it's observed, it doesn't settle into reality. It sits there in kind of a state of all realities and then settles on one, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Schrodinger came up with, now that's how they teach Schrodinger's cat to try to get to this point. It's like, it's in all states until it settles in one and it's observed. And when you say observed, you think like godlike powers, I see it and I change reality. No, what are we doing when we observe at the quantum level? It's very, very tiny. We shoot a photon at it, which is like hitting something with a baseball. It's like, I changed the scientific outcome. I just hit something physically with something, right? So in reality, the power of observation is actually causing the waveform to collapse. But it's really, we're actually changing something.
Mm-hmm.
But when they say that all states exist at the same time, Schrodinger's equation is now trying to teach that's kind of to get you to understand that. Schrodinger himself called bullshit. Was trying to say, this is fucking ridiculous, guys. How is a cat both alive and dead? And when he came up with that thing, they're like, you got it. That's a great explanation. He's like, no, I think it's bullshit. Schrodinger did not believe it. He thought it was horseshit. So he was trying to say, this is ridiculous. Something's not alive and dead. But they're like, yes, you got it. And he's like, no, what the fuck, guys?
But it's still a great way to explain it down to someplace that people can understand it.
It's taught like that, but that's not what he meant. That's what I meant. You're a little off, because Schrodinger actually didn't mean it like that. He was trying to call bullshit, but it wound up being a very powerful tool for people to understand. The reason is that we can't even really quite see what's going on, so it's a probability we can predict. And if it's like, most often it's going to end up right here, so now it's there, and it's like, okay, that's right, the mathematics are right. And it's like, okay, what's the probability it's going to happen? And when we finally observe it, it's like, yeah, that matched the probability we thought. We can't really quite see what's going on in the act of observing, because we have to use photons or some way to observe it. We can't just passively observe it. We're changing the outcome. So when we're changing the outcome, can we really say that we're just, look at that experiment. The experiment's supposed to be kind of like, a control. Mm-hmm. But we're fucking with the control. We're fucking with it. Because at that level, it's so small, we can't observe it except without bouncing off like a photon from a laser. So it's like, aha, I observed it went left. No, you punched it left like you hit it with a fucking freight train guy. It went left because you hit it.
Yeah, you hit it with a baseball bat, and it went in the direction you hit it.
But that's the thing is we really have no other way to observe the quantum level. And so the best guess is that it can exist in all states, and then when we observe it, it collapses in the one, and that becomes reality, the most likely. And Schrödinger said, it just doesn't fucking make sense, man. My cat's not both alive and dead. He's one or the other in that fucking box. And they're like, well, how do you know?
Well, you open the box.
Yeah, you got to well, the waveform collapses, and it just chooses one. But until then, he's both. And he's like, you're not just both alive. If I lock you in a box, you know if you're alive or dead, guy. So
there's the thing, though, is that at that point in time, the person's observing it. They're observing that they're alive until they're dead.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, the tree falls the first end, it doesn't really make a sound. I mean, without observation, you can't prove anything. That's the whole point of all this, without observation. But I just thought it was funny little tidbit for you.
That's the whole thing about the Matrix too, is that what is around us? Well, what we perceive is what's around us.
Yeah.
So what we see is reality.
Like we can only perceive 3 dimensions, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there was a fourth spatial, and I'm not including time, but a fourth spatial dimension, we can't even comprehend. We could not even physically see it. Even if our eyes picked up the information, our brains couldn't build the construct. It's beyond us. Could there still be a fourth dimension? Mathematically, theoretically, yes. But it would look like one of those cubes that constantly like rotate and move in and out. Like if something came from like from the fourth dimension to the third, what it would look like, the best description that scientists have is, say, for instance, if you're a TD, right? A 2D slice, you're actually living in a 2D world, and something came from the 3 dimension. Would you see a finger coming in for you? No, you'd see slivers at a time. That fingertip as it grew bigger, this big circle, and then it would just pull away. Then it would poke over here. It's like impossibly fast. You're like, God powers. But you just can't observe the fact that they're just stepping outside and poking through here or here. It seems like you're doing stuff that's impossible, but it's like, I'm just using the extra fucking dimension, guys. There's 3 of them. So to us, a fourth dimensional being would be like godlike. They'd be like, that can't go from there to there that quick. And you wouldn't observe the true shape of it. You'd see a piece of it, so it'd look weird, or it wouldn't be fully, like you really couldn't observe it correctly. In fact, something true, moving in and out of a fourth spatial dimension would actually really describe the kind of the acts and kind of like the not really observing them well, and then they're there, here, everywhere. Kind of like the supposed UFOs and shit.
Well, it would also describe ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Well, not really. Well, from what people describe as seeing ghosts is like there's like a shadowy figure of like a human, right? But if you were a fourth dimensional being and you're crossing in from the fourth dimension, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe you'd see a sliver of the human form, but I mean, you probably wouldn't be a human crossing over. You know what I mean?
But the thing is,
like my dead grandma.
Yeah, most of the time though, people can't say that they see like an actual being. Like very rarely do you hear people say they see very rarely do you hear them say that they see a full-on apparition like in Ghostbusters. They usually see some sort of light, shape or something caught in the corner of their eye, or some bending of light, or some orb flying through their vision cave.
In which case, that would be yes. That would that actually could be explained by a hypothetical, something kind of poking in from another spatial dimension.
Yeah.
But that's all mathematical hypothetical. I mean, obviously, nobody knows, but that's just a cool thing. And obviously, it's taken into account that if these reports are somewhat accurate, not something that's just mundane or just bullshit, that's
just somebody seeking attention. Who knows?
Exactly, which could be one more, all the above. Maybe there is some that actually are legit, and
Yeah, but you'd never know because everybody nowadays is trying to throw it on TikTok and make themselves 15 minutes of fame.
And then, of course, you could say, well, the stuff that the military put out, but then again, their part of the military is misinformation, misdirection, and to mess with their enemies. So it's like, even then, it's like you can't quite trust. But it is cool to think about. Like, we could literally have an entire world of beings living amongst us, and we could never observe because they're just like, yeah, this poster of these idiots are pretty cool. We'd just be basically a poster of dipshits to them,
Well, yeah, the same way that we observe, for instance, or cartoons or a comic book. Mm-hmm. The same way that we observe that, other beings could be observing us like that.
Yeah, like we joke about the fourth wall in comic books. Well, fourth dimension, maybe we're sitting there looking at, is there a fourth wall?
Yeah, never know. Well, man, on that note, where can people find you at?
People can find me, of course, haunting our Discord at G.N.A Podcast. I've got my own little Discord, too. Microbrew Gamerz. Microbrew Gamerz.com is my website. I'm also got my YouTube channel. I've got Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. I'm kind of like a little bit of here or there everywhere. But, I pretty much predominantly chill, when I'm not working half to death. I'm, hunting here.
Very nice. And I'm Cecil Xavier, your host. You can find me on Cecil vs. Games on Twitter, Cecil Xavier everywhere else. Ustream, Twitch, Facebook, Steam, Grindr, 3Play. I don't know. Find me somewhere. I'm all over the place. But sometimes with an underscore, sometimes without. I don't know. Find me. If I'm out there, let me know. I'll go there too. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. Reviews help people find the show. So if you enjoy listening to us, let other people know. You can find us on Apple, iTunes, Google Play Podcasts, Spreaker, Your Listen, MyTuner, Spotify, iHeartRadio, a whole bunch of other places. If you can't find us there, let us know. We'll upload there too. We have a partnership with Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle is a game purchasing service just like you normally would have, but with a little twist. When you buy a bundle of games, you donate a bunch to charity. If you put a question mark partner equals G.N.A podcast at the end of whatever Humble Bundle link you have, they will that will tell them that we sent you. And we'll get a little metric saying how much money we made for charity. We don't want any of your money. There's usually a slider where you can give some money to us. We don't want it. Give whatever you're going to give to us over to charity or give it to the developers. Maybe throw $1 or $2 to Humble Bundle. But we're really doing it more to try to drum up support for charity. So please support there.
Yeah, we all have our daytime jobs, so we're cool there.
Yeah. And our website is www.gnapodcast.com. You can go check out every episode that we have uploaded there. On some of the podcast places, we don't have all of our episodes up. We only have from 150 or 170 or something like that on, just because of storage reasons and how much it costs to host on every other place. But if you want to get to everyone, just go to www.gnapodcast.com. Every one of them is listed there. You can listen to all of them, back from the first episode where Grave started to episode 56 transitions where Matt Man and I took over, and then shortly after that where it was me taking the full reins. So check it all out. If you want to write to us, G.N.A podcast at GNA&yourdNA.1. Send your questions, comments, death threats. We don't care. We just want to hear from you. The Nigerian prince has even stopped emailing us, so that's how popular we feel. Well, D.
I remember when I started it. I think I started it somewhere just shortly before one of the 100th episode. Was it in the 80s or 90s? I think I started.
Yeah, you as I say, you started later. Yeah, you started a bit later on because Blue came in, helped out. I think you joined in, and then Zyber joined in. I may have that backwards. I don't know. I guess I'll go back in time and listen to some episodes and find out. But anyways, man, thank you so much for joining me. I had a blast talking. What the hell did we talk about? We talked about aliens. We talked about the Matrix.
I remember aliens, and we're going to get an RPG started, man. That's what I remember.
I'll say, yeah, we got aliens, we've got RPGs, we've got the Matrix, we've got quantum physics. And I got a lessons on Schrodinger's cat, so it was a good night.
Let's say, is it alive or dead? Well, it depends. If you send it to a Chinese food restaurant, it's all dead.
Yeah, they may actually be able to resuscitate it. Who knows?
Well, they are doing those unethical experiments.
Well, man, have a great night.
You too, dude. Bye, man.